Welcome to 2022, guys, the first committee meeting of the year, planning and development. We've got two items of business that we want to discuss today. One will be the potential hire of a lobbyist at the federal level to help us with grant writing. And then Cliff would like to talk to us about our home purchase economic development incentive package that we've been offering. So to begin with, we'll start with the lobbyist position. There's no doubt that we want to do this. I mean, we've committed to doing this. We've appropriated the money to do this. We are just asking the judge for kind of an update of where we are and how it seems to be flowing with it.
And I'm glad you asked me for that. First of all, before I get started, congratulations to each of you with the announcement of our fourth steel mill in Mississippi County. You know, the longer I'm in this position, the more apparent it becomes that there was a whole lot of people involved in it. And I don't think anybody ever really makes the big one, but everybody nudges just a little bit and keeps nudging until it finally gets to where it's supposed to be. And certainly congratulate Mr. Chitwood has done an outstanding job in making this thing come to fruition, and his foundation, which I have watched them work and work and work and work. And they listen to y'all. I've seen that. I've had first-hand experience of that. So I think it was a culmination of a whole lot of people, and I have not mentioned the rest of the groups. Certainly the mayors, the city council members, all had a part in this. So I know we're all very excited. But get to the matter at hand. Over the federal lobbyists, we've got two that we're working with right now, a state, more of a consultant really, and the other one is federal lobbyists. We've got both RFQs written. The one for the state that has to go with ARP funds, Mr. Henry is doing the final edits to it. The treasurer has it, and she's going to make sure it meets what her parameters are, and we're going to pass these out to. These are the federal RFQs. They're already in production. I did speak with Mark Whitmore at the association because the statute's not definitive about exactly what all the parameters are. So we've met our legal obligation here in this publication. So, and then I've got a meeting with the Tippet Creek group Monday morning. I've also spoken with Julie Mullinax from the Mullinax firm. I think many of you may be familiar with those two. Spoken with Chad Causey at length about this. Spoke with Gene Higginbotham for a long time. I've spoken with Senator Cotton and Senator Bozeman about it before, actually spoke to Senator Bozeman about it just recently. And there's a whole lot of ins and outs, and I won't exhaust all of them here, but to give you an idea, we started working on this in the summer of 2019, and went to the north end property a number of times. We've got drone footage, we've got still photographs, and I have not been in there up until recently. I'm going to say recently, like 10 days ago. And it was probably almost a year prior to that, close to it, and it has gone down much, much worse than what I thought it would have. Summer 2019, the houses were there. In the summer months, you could be driving down the street, but you wouldn't know because it was covered up with foliage. It wasn't probably a year or so later that they were beginning to go to the ground rather than stand up, rather than walk into them and look. You might be walking on top of them and look. This last trip I was there, the street is beginning to get white, the streets. So I mean, it's going down much faster than I would have anticipated. So there's a great need out there. Not only is it a health for the future, but someone is gonna clean this up someday, somehow. And I don't think any of us here wants to leave it to another court or another county judge to look back on us and wonder why we wasn't able to do anything.
Can you talk about the size of the project?
It's 110 acres roughly, and approximately 400 structures. And I say structures, I don't call them houses, because most of them are duplexes. I think some of them are triplexes. There may be some, there's some buildings out there. There's 2 parks out there. It's a huge, huge area. Like I said, it's 110 acres. I think it's about, what did we say, Tom? Half a mile by a quarter, something like that.
It sounds right.
But anyway, it's a big area, and it needs something done about it. We have spoken with the board recently. We are now speaking with the loan institutions that may be collateralizing using that. I don't think it's much of an asset anymore than it is a liability, so we think we may give you a release. We do not have a definitive answer for this. And correct me if I say anything here wrong. I don't believe we have anything definitive from the board, but I don't think, for the most part, just in casual conversation, I think they would be open to the possibility of putting it in another entity's ownership, whether that be an authority or a foundation or the county or the commission or board. In other words, there's other entities that it could fall under. But anyway, there are lots of help, like I said, that I have, we've gone over the number of people. And you know, when federal presidency comes in and administration, you know, they all have different personalities and different views on how things that are carried out. The way that I understand it, and I have not exhausted what ARP puts out there by any means. They've got a huge website that goes in lots of different directions. But 90% of the large grants that I see that goes for cleanup rather than just assessment, 90% would cap out at 500,000. I saw a few at 600,000, and I never saw one that was above that. So keep in mind, we're talking about spending 120,000. And I was told also through a lot of these talks that EPA would be probably the department of choice that would fit funding something like this. Doesn't make it true. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for help to find out, you know, where to go. So, and like I said, then there may be other areas. And give you an idea about some of my, and I'm going in this with a great deal of being leery about, because I mean, we're going into this group, this meeting, and they're going to be selling. And they're going to be selling what they can do, and then what they actually do, you know, may be a different thing. And by the way, while I'm talking about that, keep in mind this came from one of the people that I talked about that put $10,000 a month retains them, but that didn't cover their fees. And I said, well, what kind of fees would they have? Phone calls, emails, letters, meetings. I do not know that that's true. I'll know more Monday.
Kind of like hiring a lawyer.
Yeah.
You give them a retainer, but every time they pick up the phone or the pen, it's costing somebody.
Stopwatch on. Yeah. So there's different ways to go about this. I think this can be cleaned up. Well, I know it can be cleaned up, and I know it will be cleaned up, but I think we can clean it up. But keep in mind, $120,000 is about what a 320 Caterpillar excavator costs, which can do a tremendous amount of work. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying, let's keep our eyes open and see everything that may be available to us and gather all the information we possibly can. Right now, we're riding a wave of winds, Mississippi County, and I think we need to continue that trend line. I do not want to see a loser here, and I do not want to be taken advantage of. I want to make sure that this is successful. And I think we can. Like I said, I think it's a doable project, and But like I said, there's gonna have to be a lot more effort put back into it. And keep in mind, if it does come from EPA, and I'm gonna say any other department, they always wanna know, and first and foremost, what are you gonna do with it? And, I was asking one of the board members, I said, all right, let's just say we brought in, let's just have that 6 excavators sitting out here in the trucks, and fixing to unload, and we contracted every truck here at Jonesboro, dump truck to move it out. When we get it all done, and let's just say we took down the houses, and we took down trees, and we took down the foundation, do you have enough money to mow? 110 acres. First of all, we wouldn't get the grant without a plan, you know, to redevelop it. But let's just say you had the money to mow it. That's a tremendous cost. And then say, well, let's just turn it back over to nature and let it grow up. Well, do you have the money to hire security to keep the meth labs and the other stuff out? I mean, there's just a whole lot of questions that we need to keep in mind that's gonna have to be answered. And when we do come up with that repurposing, which is gonna be key to getting a grant, if it falls within the ideas of the administration that's currently the president, then we've got a much better opportunity of being successful with that. Rather than saying, coming up with some of the keywords that the previous administration did.
I know you don't have crystal ball, and we've just published this RFQ, but kind of ballpark idea about how many firms you would like to at least visit with or talk to, or you hope to get response from?
I hope to get 4. More would be better, and I think we'll get to 4.
Since we've appropriated money and you've got our full approval, you know, you're the only one that can sign the contract and do the negotiations. Any kind of hopeful timeline?
I'm gonna need all of your help. I need everybody in here to think about it, to research it. There's could be a lot of pitfalls to this thing. I said, I want a winner, I do not want a loser. So, no, I won't be signing a contract unless this board right here says that's what we need to do.
So do we have any, at least to your knowledge, any time frame restrictions, any deadlines that we're trying to meet?
Week after next, is when the, RFQ says that we're gonna open them. We certainly need to be way into play by March 1st, which I think we can be, because, 4 recipients, I'm talking with them right now, we tend to know what we're looking for and be working on it now, don't wait. And, if you can help us, say you can help us, and if you don't think you can, well then, you know, just tell us you can, we'll move on to the next one. So, we're actually working right now. I mean, it's active right now today, and some of these people are looking to see if they're able to address the fact or not. I mean, a lot of times it has to do with what connections you have, and the federal Senate has their own committees, and then the House has their own committees. Sometimes they're the same type of committee, but they got different names. So do you have connections here or there, and you've been successful? What's been your success? What's been the timeline? We've got a lot of questions. You'll see in the RFQ that ask a lot of those questions.
So maybe the first week of February, we could have hopes or something?
I think by the end of next week, I think we can make a decision. And I'm asking you, I'm not just talking, you'll go and do some research and look through like the EPA sites, and, Acre is on there right now. They've been on there the last 14 years. But things like redevelopment plans, and does it need to be put into another entity? Is that a good idea? Is it not a good idea? We've got to do some dotting I's and crossing T's. One of the ones that I looked through the EPA site was that had gotten the cleanup grant, was they're repurposing of that particular property that they were doing. They're going to repurpose it into a first responder training center. And that's what I mean by kind of the feelings or the thought of the federal administration. You know, due to COVID, that has gotten to be kind of a key word that everybody now appreciates, is first responders. And so, things like that go through a whole lot more quickly, and perhaps repurposing, you know, for something that may not fit their narrative. So,
Bible actually holds the title of the property, don't they?
no, Westminster Village holds title of that property.
They hold the
The
title.
entire 110 acres? Or I thought
The
it was split.
entire 110.
Okay.
So how does BGRAA fit in there?
They're just a neighbor. You got the city of Gosnell to the east, to the west. You've got the city of Blytheville to the north, and what I've always called the new apartments. You got the city of Blytheville. Well, you got Blytheville Regional Airport Authority up until the east side of the runway, and you got Blytheville again. You've actually got Westminster owns the hospital. So it's kind of cut up, you know, it's not exactly, they're not really in square blocks. The city of Blytheville owns the water treatment plant. So, you know, the airport authority has the two dormitories. One of them's already been abated and ready to take down. The other one I think needs abatement. There's some other buildings on that property. And I'm kind of lumping these all together. And the reason why is, you know, Mississippi County has assets all over the county. The Aeroplex is one of our bigger ones, and the north end is one of our biggest hindrances to that group taking off and doing things that would be helpful for the entire county. And I think holding them back with some liability like this is just gonna stagnate their progress.
Do you think when Westminster relinquishes title, that they're willing to do that permanently, or was that with some sort of intent that it would return to them after it was sold
No,
out?
no, I think the discussions I've had with them, and I have not been at a formal board meeting, but the discussions, well, we're talking about a permanent, we're not talking about
So,
turning it over, getting it out and trying, we're not talking about going around the law, the rules.
gotcha. So then it would be our responsibility to determine what we do with it permanently then.
It would be somebody's. And, well, like I said, I don't know, like I said,
I may be getting confused here. So I thought the lobbying firm was going to help us identify where these funds would be and show us how, you know what I'm saying? I would think that, I mean, we will still have to, and then be able to help us obtain those funds through our own grant writing. Is that not?
it's either that, or I think right now we're open-minded, it could be through maybe earmarks.
Okay, so
And I think that's what the March 1st,
deadline.
we also, our two senators that we have oppose earmarks. And you know, earmarks were actually outlawed in 2010, does that sound right?
They're about Portobello
I
Park.
say outlawed, kind of but they're still doing them.
Yeah.
But you've got some senators, well, let's just say, Alabama, was definitely, again, really impacted them and then also.
Change of attitude.
Yeah, so, and some are writing more than others. I'm still saying it's possible to, I do not understand all how the ins and outs of that work, but, hopefully we'll find those out too.
It's an election year too.
And it's an election, things happen in an election. Yeah, and that's why I think we need, the speed is of the essence.
Guys, any questions?
No, you said but we would know something by the end of next week, but you've got a response deadline on here that's not till January 26th.
That's correct.
So, I mean, we need to wait until we get,
I think until any money changes hands or until any contracts are signed, but we can do a whole lot between now and then, and we're gonna need to do it anyway. I mean, if you kind of could imagine, let's just say we signed the contract with the lobbying firm, well, they're gonna need to know a whole lot of stuff. And so we're gonna be paying them while we're exchanging that information. And at some point, they're gonna ask things like, well, what are you gonna repurpose? So we need to have all of that available. So I'm thinking we're gonna be moving in that direction prior to retaining anybody, but while we're exchanging the information, like, well, we can do that, we can't do that. You got the wrong group. Then I think that the time's gonna play out anyway, I guess is my answer. So, I think we can use this to our benefit and we're not paying anybody right now.
Our next regular meeting is the 25th.
I think the RFQ.
Yeah, the RFQ ends on the 26th,
Yeah.
so maybe in our regular meeting, we'll have some kind of
Yeah.
idea where we're headed.
And I know, it's just like what we talked about with US Steel. I think we're gonna have to all get on board here and help, I mean, that would make it a whole lot more productive and a whole lot more speeded along. So I'll keep you informed with everything I know.
So you're gonna meet with all the four, or you have, how many meetings do you have?
Right now, I just got one formal meeting, and that's Monday, 10:30.
But you've already spoke with some of them, haven't you?
Just spoke with all of them.
4, all being 4.
4.
Anybody else, guys? Now's your time. Yeah, we'll step at a time. Just as fast as you sure are quiet. Oh. Anything else, Judge, that,
I've spoken for 30 minutes, I don't know of anything, I mean, I can answer questions, but, or I could sit here the rest of the day and we could order pizza tonight. There's a lot of I's to be dotted and T's crossed.
let us know if we can help.
I will.
We're behind you. All right, we passed last month the new home incentive for economic development directly related to Big River Steel initially, knowing that it was going to expand. And we're already having requests and questions and interest, and you know, the whole deal was to increase population in Mississippi County and to build new homes. So I think Greta has been fielding a lot of questions and requests from that, and Cliff's going to kind of bring us up to date with what they'd like to propose.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the Corps Board for the support that was received on the Big River Steel project. When you think about the largest single investment ever come to the state of Arkansas, having it in Mississippi County, that's a standout accomplishment for the people of Mississippi County, and it's something we all should be proud of. On the work here, live here, Mr. Scott at the bank and Mr. Jackson have been fielding a lot of inquiries, and I've been fielding quite a few. And one of the places, at the present time, the only change that we wanted to ask was that we've been getting a lot of inquiries from people who presently own a home in Mississippi County, but they are going to go to work for, you know, a larger company. They're going to make more money, and they want to know if this applies to them. My board met, and after a healthy discussion, decided that they should. And one of the cases that I can think of is take a person who works at Daenerys, and you know, Daenerys is on, and then they're off, and you can't really be sure what your income is going to be for a year. So let's say you live in an $80,000 home, and then you get a job at Nucor or Big River Steel, and now you're going to be making double what your salary was, and you can afford a nicer home. Is it in our interest to help that person get there? And we believe it is, because what we want are new homes with new families living in them. That would give us that, and it would also give us some inventory still in that lower price range, which we really don't have much inventory in older homes that sell from $75,000 to $110,000. They generally get snapped up as quick as they come on the market. So that would be the change that we would ask the court to entertain. And then too, those people they're paying the economic development tax now. I mean, they live here. Kind of like when we decided that, you know, we would extend this to people who already work in participating companies but are presently living in campers and RVs in our various trailer parks. You know, those are people, that's low-hanging fruit to put in a new home in Mississippi County. And these people, we think, would be the same.
Well, is that gonna create a problem for, like, what about people making a lateral move is it gonna create a mass exodus from people living in Newport to go work at the new US Steel? I mean, is that gonna create a problem?
I don't think it will create that exodus. I mean, that's gonna be something that the companies will have to fight out amongst themselves regardless. Now, and let's say that you're already at Newport, you probably don't need a new boat. I mean, you may.
Well, the difference is that the current one, they're paying 100% on, and the new one, they're gonna pay they can pay 90% on.
Well, what do y'all think?
I mean, I'm just throwing out,
Yeah, I don't think we discussed that.
I'm thinking the arguments that's gonna come with that.
I'm gonna tell you what a real estate agent told me last night.
Right,
There are no homes for sale in Bonneville right now.
right.
You just don't have them to sell. So,
I think, and I think I mentioned this when we were discussing this, one of the biggest problems we're gonna have with this program is availability of land for someone to develop.
There's gonna be a lot of problems, we're gonna have to address a lot of things, and, all the contracts are going to need to be.
That's what I was thinking earlier.
110 acres could possibly.
City Gospel might jump on that, put the infrastructure in on it.
The infrastructure's there.
Infrastructure's already there.
Wow.
And most
Some of the access, but yeah.
Most of it belongs to water. Because they have the sewer and they have the water. And the north end apartments, those 3 stories, those belong to Gospel, and they're having to supply that already.
Right, well, that was kind of my thought earlier, was it, give us some land to work with.
That would just tie into an economic development program.
There's also some places, and I know there's a lot of them with Manila, but I've got someone that has just bought, I think it's 10 acres here in Florida, they're developing it into lots. And
Still have a horse, the one out at Fox Crossing.
Fox Crossing has several lots, I think there's like 60 or 70 lots out there. There's still a few on Amherst, there's still some behind River.
And there's a few.
There's a couple of them.
I spoke with a gentleman at Kaiser, and he has some property available. There's a lot of conversation going on right now.
All the property north of Walmart up to the rest area is on R4 for 3/4 acre lot residences.
Well, what holds a lot of people back, particularly small contractors, which is what we have now, we don't have a big contract, is you have to put in the infrastructure up front before you ever start selling a lot. And you've got to put in sewer, electricity, and all this. And that, so many small developers don't have the resources to do that.
And it drives the cost of the lots.
Sure it does.
Up. If you're talking 3/4 acre lot, you can be talking $30,000-$40,000 for a lot when they go in, put straight in, run sewer lines, water lines. Have the infrastructure for electricity installed and all that.
Well, the last pretty good sized development that we had, I can't remember the name of it now, but, on the north end, there's about 2 or 3 or 4 streets there. And he told me that they never got even until they got to the last street, and that took 10 years probably before they ever got it for that. Well, a small operator just can't do that. But again, you're talking about 100 acres or somewhere like that, or a pretty good tract of land, someone from outside town, a big developer like Phil out of northwest Arkansas or somebody like that, might become interested. We're getting a lot of attention right now because of the steel mill. And some of these big operators where money is no problem, hopefully might become interested in somebody.
Well, the governor mentioned it in his press conference this morning, this specific program.
Oh, we did?
Our housing program?
Yes.
Did he
Wow,
really?
that's awesome.
This is one of a kind,
Yes.
it was developed right there.
Yes.
Do you have the verbiage that y'all would like to see?
Well, we were just on point 19, which, it reads now, if I already live in Mississippi County, will I qualify for the loan? And then it says, if you have not owned a home in Mississippi County, you are eligible. But if you have owned a home, you are not. We would just like to say, will I qualify for a loan? Yes. But we're not
So
guaranteeing
would
these
you
people.
have to change jobs? Would you have to change jobs?
No, I don't think so.
So like I could, build a new house?
Well, if we sign a agreement with your employer, I mean, y'all aren't giving up control. I mean, there has to be an agreement with the employer every time. And that contract is going to have lots of if, buts, and whereases as far as funding has to be available. It has to be approved by the court. The company has to sign the agreement that they will agree to the pass-through requirements of the funding.
So, I'm just thinking, so if you signed an agreement with Nucor, then you wouldn't have to change jobs then, would you?
No, I mean, Nucor's going to be hiring, they say now, from now on out, between 100 and 150 people every year, because that's no longer a plant full of young guys.
Right,
There's
right,
guys all
that's
the way
right.
up the ladder.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
there's, in between the two plants, there's 1,800.
Well, like I was just thinking about like the Majestic Steel. So, we're starting to see some of them come to the area now.
Right.
I just wonder, so would that, if they sign, that would be available to them too, right?
Right. And management, I mean, for instance, Randy Scott got a call from a gentleman that's gonna be taking over the area of that concrete.
Okay.
He was about to build a house in Monette. But if he qualifies, he'll build a house in Monette.
Well, there you
So
go.
what do we want?
That was the point, right,
That's the
that's
point.
the point, whole point of the program.
Right.
Well, that was one of the questions that I did ask Mr. Scott one day. I said, if we're just talking about trying to recruit people, like doctors, so would this apply to the hospital? If we had doctors, if I had enough to build a hospital, I'm just saying. A little incentive.
But
there.
that's a good point right there.
The incentive,
That's the difference of where they gotta build it though, 3 or 4 miles difference.
well, that's right, and we've got young eye doctors in town, we have all sorts of things like that.
Instead of Crawfordsville, move to Wilson.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the whole purpose of this plan.
Well, I guess it's been 15 years ago now, but 15 years ago, a young banker moved to town and he didn't have a house. Just so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you need from us?
Just approval.
We don't have to pass a resolution or anything,
No.
do we?
No, just, verbal approval. I'm gonna bring contracts back. We're gonna sign the first contract with USC. The second contract will be signed with most likely Nucor. And then we'll filter down through the ranks. We're going to restrict it to manufacturing companies because that's where we're safest under the law. Passing the money through that manufacturing company. And then two, I think it's important. I was at a colloquium of economic developers last week, and they had a figure that astounded me. Every day in the United States, the workforce is shrinking. 18,000 people are leaving the workforce every day. Every day, 2,000 people are entering the workforce, which means every day in America there's 16,000 less people to work. So this is something we need to do now. We need to grab some people while they're, with these new jobs and these high wages, because it's going to get. And the companies need to do it too, because they can all see this. Whereas a few years ago, you would have had to put a decimal point and several zeros to get the Nucor's turnover rate. You don't have to do that anymore. It's not high, it's very low, but it's now a recognizable figure. And because everyone can see that if you're driving 5 hours from home and leaving your family for 4 days at a time, that is not the most stable in domestic situations. And in time, something will go wrong. The wheels will come off for a lot of people under those circumstances. So
Well, that's not sustainable. I mean, that's not for years on.
Go ahead.
Um, As, looking into the future, as Big River develops, and they're going to attract some smaller industries too, just like Newport did. And Newport is going to continue to attract some smaller industries. So any of those would be eligible as long as, let's say you're gonna process some of the steel or something. As long as they have at least 10 employees, they would be eligible.
Well, as long as they sign a contract.
That's what I'm saying. They'd be eligible to get into the program if
Well,
they.
see, and that's a good example. Let's say somebody comes in and they're going to hire Mississippi County people. But they're not gonna qualify for the terms of this, they're not gonna buy a $200,000 home. They probably already live here. You know, if they can buy a $200,000 home and the banks loan them the money, then that's fine. I think that's our purpose, is to help them do that. But our primary target is management. Because now they don't have to just say, well, of course you can't live there, so we'll live in, you know, Jonesboro or Dyersburg or Marion. And now we have a real incentive to maybe capture those 2 or 3 or 4 management people, just like for Majestic. I mean, we're talking to them about that. So, and I don't know how long this will need to go. I mean, let's say it takes off the way it looks like it might, and within a couple of years, we've had 200 new homes built, and we attract some big builders, and they're here. Well, then we can start to say we're gonna have to back up slowly, you know, cause you shouldn't have to do this forever, you know.
I hope that's a problem.
And the whole point of the way it's written is if it works, it's great for the county. If
Right.
it doesn't work, it doesn't cost us
Doesn't
anything.
cost you.
Well, and so if you opened it up a little bit, then that would free up, I think, whenever you guys said that, that would free up some of the homes we already had, maybe make them available to, you know, to buy.
For
Right
first time,
now,
for first time
yeah,
home buyers.
because like I said, I mean, there's not much.
Inventory is low.
And right now, when you look at it, the house that sold for $150,000 2 years ago, it's on for over $200,000 now. I mean, the pricing on real estate has just gone through the roof.
Well, totally off the subject, but it is a big problem that holds some things back. And I think everybody recognizes that. But the citizens of Bible need to get together and bang some heads together and get their school board straightened out and get their schools straightened out. And I don't know how that's gonna happen, but it needs to happen. It hurts us tremendous. It's all negative publicity. And it's nothing but petty crap. And I'll say enough.
Judge, any remarks not about the school board, but
No, go ahead and get into the school board.
but about Cliff's thoughts.
I just like what y'all have talked about, emergency things gathered a whole lot of conversation. I think it's in earnest, and I think this is gonna be a tremendous program. And once it's been going, like what y'all were just saying, and at some point have to pull back, I think once it has the momentum, I think it'll feed itself.
Personal experience last night, I was sitting watching TV on my couch and my phone dinged, and it was a friend in Jonesboro who's a realtor. And he's just a friend. And he's got a friend that they work with on building and stuff, and he said, hey, see the big announcement? We want to come build some apartments. Where do we need to build? And he had no idea about this housing incentive. So after my text, you know, and he said, wow,
Yeah.
we need to talk. And he said, I may need to ride around Mississippi County with you. And I said, well, we've got some hot spots all over the county, from north to south and east to west.
So I have a question that just made me think of this. So if, let's say I'm a builder and I decide I'm gonna come build 10 houses in Mississippi County, and then somebody moves in and buys one of my houses, is that considered a new build if it's just never had anybody in it?
Closest
Okay.
they've
Never
been.
been out.
Okay,
That's exactly who we're trying to get to come,
Okay.
because we don't
Right.
have the
Yeah.
inventory of
Right,
homes.
we need to
Okay,
build the
so I
houses
just wanted-
now
yeah.
instead of waiting for the jobs to come.
yeah, wait for
Those are
people doing
considered
it.
spec houses. Most of these houses that, every house in Blythe that has been built in the past 5 years has been a custom home.
Well, yes, so that's right,
That
yes.
people go have their own
Yeah, you don't
blueprints
say
drawn,
that.
they
Right,
hire
that's right.
a contractor.
And I
they
guess
build
I
that
just wanna
house.
make sure that we're not talking custom homes, we can,
Yeah.
you can build your whole neighborhood if you want.
That's the idea, I think, is to get the builders in here building first, and then there'll be create the inventory, right, for the people who wanna do this, and that's gotta come first.
I have someplace for them to come.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad to hear this. I'm an old man now, but I'm glad to hear it. Everybody wonder when you ride the Jonesville, you just ride off. They get lost, you ride around over here, wherever, you gonna see they building something. They doing something, houses or something. Now, somebody gonna make some money building all them houses and stuff like that. So, and I was wondering this, was the A meeting, whatever, long time ago, and this white man got out the helicopter. I just got out the helicopter. I'm from so-and-so, so-and-so. And I rode all the way around here. He said, I don't know why people ain't putting more money around here. He said, because you got so many assets. And he said, well, they got their way. And so I said, why you telling me this for? They ain't gonna listen to me no way. He said, that's why I'm telling you, because they ain't gonna listen to you what I'm saying. But we don't, I mean, I'm glad to hear that because we had it. We missed a lot.
Yep.
When I was younger. College. Another fact that we didn't have what went to in Missouri or Kentucky didn't have $85,000, nothing to give them. So you're doing a good job, I think. So, but a lot of people ain't looking at that. They don't know. And they ain't trying to find out.
And this could help kind of, stop some of the apartment growth.
Exactly what I was telling, because it doesn't qualify for apartments.
Yeah.
True.
Right, that's
And
right.
yes.
Instead of the transit, you're gonna actually have people that are gonna plant here instead of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But folks, what you gotta look at is, yes, if you build some houses, there are going to be apartments that go up, because there are a lot of people who will never own a home. I have a friend who's lived in the same house for 25 years, and he's rented it for 25 years.
No, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Me and Molly like those kind of people.
I'll give you that one.
So, we're hoping it doesn't stop the apartments, we're hoping it will get some people to build some houses, but I think it will also, if you get people to build homes, it will make the communities more attractive, it will make things look at coming here like restaurants, and what we always talk about, quality of life, and that will help bring the apartments, because then they'll be able to rent them, to have the quality of life here, what they're looking for.
And you know, that is exactly what started this program. That's what drove it. That's what Cliff and the foundation came up with in response to this discussion.
And I think, a lot of the places that have population requirements and stuff will take into account some of that, and we're not gonna have another census for there in 10 years, but they start seeing things building, and they start seeing houses and residents, that's gonna work in our favor.
In actuality, a lot of times what happens, and I have to deal with the census too, as the building inspector, because I actually do a report every month. What you'll find is, what happens is if you have that much growth, at 5 years, they look at the possibility of doing a special census.
There you go.
And a lot of times it changes between the 2 years.
Well, just activity in general, a lot of those, it's not even about so much those people or the population numbers, it's the how many people could potentially use my business during the day. So if you've got construction going, and especially when it comes to restaurants, you have construction crews coming in and out, and you have all these different things, that's gonna create people, which is what those people really want.
I don't know if you use it or not, but like you go into lotteries or Tractor Supply, they ask you for a zip code.
Right,
They're looking to see.
That's
who's
exactly
coming
right.
in and shop.
right, that's right.
That's how they track.
Well, and I don't know, having, just talking about it. But I don't know if you guys ever go and some of the other, I know you do, like at lunch. I mean, you don't know any of those people in there.
I don't,
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
but they've got on work uniforms and,
Cliff, has any of the mayors, expressed any interest in having some land available?
Well, Osceola is, no, but that would be a great idea, I mean, if they own it, I mean, Mayor Wilson has talked about purchasing some land and making it available to a developer. That would be, but she's also talked about only just adding to the county incentive, you know, with another 10% until her money runs out. So I don't know really which would be the most effective. There are, in Osceola, just like Lyle and Manila, there are empty lots that already have sewer, water, gas, electricity. So, you know, maybe, I don't really know what the wise thing to do. Fill those up first and then go for development, or go for development. You know, part of Osceola is in the, Rivercrest School District. So, you know, that could be a fairly tasty morsel for someone, you know, they could, you know, just like you could live in Bible, you know, I mean, you're right, Neil, I mean, the Osceola and Bible school districts are going to, we're going to struggle to get new people moving in here to go to those school districts, I mean, because whether it's correct or not, people look at school scores, they look at the comparative test, and, you know, the highest scores are Gosnell, then Armorel, then Manila, then Rivercrest. You know, and goodness, Gosnell is competitive with Bentonville and Centerton. And, you know, so, and that's, you know, part of the reason I believe in this is that it will give us an opportunity, I think, to start to tell our story to what will become a critical mass of these people moving in. I mean, you know, 900 jobs coming to Mississippi County. That's a lot of people, and if we get to tell that story to 400 or 500 of them, it'll start to spread, and we can hopefully jump this hurdle that we've been getting our brains beat out on. You don't want to live there, you know. No, you know. You get the majority of a mill and living here, then that story changes. Yeah, it's great. My kids go to Rivercrest, Manila, Gosnell, you know, and then you quit having to hike uphill and you get the little coast.
I think we need to have a, city mayor's meeting with the county and make sure that all the mayors are up to date on all of these different areas. If they want to incentivize the program through their own efforts, I think we need to encourage that.
That's right.
Create a little competition in between them. They want these houses, they come to the table.
I would hope that if they don't already have one in their municipality, they would, appoint or establish a planning and development committee within each municipality and do a planned development as opposed to some eclectic, I mean, Jonesboro's terrible right now, guys. I mean,
Right.
a wonderful community that you can't get through in the afternoons.
Without running infrastructure.
Bad.
So I'd like to see our cities and municipalities avoid that if possible. So maybe a meeting like you're talking about might bring that to mind if they're not already working that direction.
Absolutely, you know, be careful what you ask for, because you may get it. And I got an idea, this is a winner, what we're sitting on, and the mayors need to participate, and whether it's like what Cliff talked about, either offering some parcel of land, or an additional incentive, or building, plans for the future. I think we need to be there. I think now is the time to get there.
Guys, what we're looking for in the end, as far as this meeting goes today, is a resolution from this committee to adjust the verbiage or to allow Greta and Mr. Chitwood to adjust the verbiage of the offering, the Work Here, Live Here program, and point 19 in particular, to where it qualifies for these other individuals, as Cliff stated earlier.
Well, I'll make a motion that we refer to Greta's
their discretion regarding
Their request to
that
change the
request.
verbiage to 2019. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion about the motion? With that, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There you go, Mr. Chitwood.
Thank you, sir.
You didn't want to include my amendment about the school board.
We might have to do a side remark.
Is that 110 acres in the golf district or the golf
It's
district?
pretty good.
Bill would probably know
It's
that.
in the Gosnell
It's Gosnell
School
School
District.
District, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's
110 acres
Gosnell.
to the north
Long
end.
city limits, but
The
Gosnell School
Gosnell
District,
School
that's a good thing.
And that's
yes.
what, all the base housing is in Gosnell.
Yes,
That's what I thought.
everything west of the bio.
So that makes that a very viable sweet spot for building.
It's in Mississippi County.
You know what I'm
Electric
saying?
Territory.
To build nice homes, it's not gonna bring down the value because of the location.
Trying to get these old ones.
It's in the what now?
It's in
You
Mississippi
wanna make
County.
it hard for you, so
Oh, I see, right.
lots and lots.
Right.
Big right, make big lots, big
Because
homes.
the rates are low.
Look out of place.
I think in a lot of real estate, they add that.
With the electric rates being lower in that community.
It's in Mississippi
Oh,
County. Electric
yes,
Territory.
That would be
yes,
another-
yes.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
part of it, because part
You
of the
know,
base
they're
is
really low
energy,
around
and
here.
part of it is Mississippi County.
All of that is
All the housing.
all of the line between, the Gospel Baptist Church is, the new high school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They take it and run it right east. Everything, north of that is Mississippi County.
Current Presbyterian, what the Presbyterian community is using right now, that part of
It's
that
split.
energy and part of it is.
Really?
So I,
Absolutely.
you know, I think we've sat here and started working on your rehab plan for that 110 acres, girl. We haven't resolved anything else today, I think we've done that.
They've had to adjust the rent. They've had to adjust the rent on some units
Uh-huh.
that are in Entergy's territory because of the difference in the rate.
Wow, so where is it, what about the internet?
The internet has been put in.
Included?
That will be, if that became available, it would be.
Bravo city limits, you're gonna have.
But there's one thing that always is that.
I know.
That'd be-
Well, I know.
I'm telling you, that guy just still thinks it's a game changer.
Sure is.
Judge, you got any other points of business, sir?
I think we're standing on the doorstep with the bright future.
I think we are too. Guys, Mr. Chitwood's phone was blowing up. Little Rock Television was trying to get in touch with him, and so he had to vamoose. But if nobody else has any points of business, you're welcome to stay and visit all you want, but we'll call the meeting adjourned.